Let's talk herd. Hi, Mary. So lovely to have you here again.
Hello, it's so lovely to be here. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, and I absolutely love your play. I Am Changed. And I just wanted to, it occurred to me when I was thinking about what I loved about it and like how to communicate that to you. It made me think of a little story. So I'll just
Oh,
tell you the little story.
please.
I mean, it's not exactly the same, but you'll understand when I
Hmm.
when I tell you. So the other day, um, these it's actually a farmer that I get hay from, and he has some horses at his place. And one of them is actually the mother of Cheyenne, who I had here for a while.
Okay.
And Cheyenne's owner or guardian moved away, and she's now has and she kept her at a boarding place, but she now has a yard or a place of her own and land of her own. So she decided she wanted her two older ones to go and be with her. So, and they were living with this farmer who's not that far from me. And so he and her her father-in-law were trying to take the horses, trying to load them up. And basically he told me that Cheyenne's mother, the little old one, she wouldn't go in at all. And would I come and help? So I went over there, and they'd obviously had a little bit of there'd been something going on because she'd broken her head collar, and she was in that way, where horses are really kind of, she just wasn't there. She wasn't present. She was sort of unhappy. So I'd taken an apple over because I kind of imagined that might be the case. And I was just feeding her little bits and just getting her to kind of wake back up again and, come alive. And she was just starting to kind of investigate a little bit, starting to come up the ramp. She was still a little bit unhappy. And she was kind of halfway up. I was quite surprised at how, um, willing she was being, considering. And then, and then unfortunately, one of the farmer, he kind of came up behind her and just started pushing her.
Oh, no.
So she was just like, no, no way. It's like she threw her hands up in the air and was like, there's no way, I'm not doing it. And so I carried on for a little bit, but she just was really tired. And so we decided to just put them out in the field and go and have lunch and come back. So he wanted us to leave their head collars on in the field, and we did that. So when we came back in the afternoon, I noticed that she had lost her head collar somewhere. So I was looking around for it, and I just looked into her barn. They had this barn, which I think was an old chicken barn, and it was like up on a level. You had to like step right up. And, and there was her head collar right in the corner of that barn. It was like she'd kind of taken it off and put it there. And when I turned round with it, she came up, she kind of jumped up the little step and came right up behind me, and she kind of pressed her face against me. And she just sort of, I could just hear the words. She was like, "This is my home.
Mm.
This is where I live. I don't want to." Well, she didn't
Oh,
really say, "I don't want to leave." She
yeah.
just said, "This is my home." And
Mm.
she was so sweet and just so vulnerable in that moment.
Mm.
And there's the whole rest. I don't really need to go into the rest of what happened, but that moment when she was just so connected, it felt like, with me, like for some reason, she just felt that she could share that with me. When I was watching your play, it wasn't the same at all,
Mm.
but that intimacy
Mm.
and it was in a complete manifested in a different way, because what came across really strongly for me was how proud Magic
Mm.
was, like how she held her body so sort of, just so kind of, I mean, I don't really like that word, proud doesn't exactly, because just so sort of happy at being, at her role and at being seen and at being understood, and just that, and the intimacy of it really reminded me. It was like, and there's something about that that's just the kind of magic for me of it all, of
Mm.
our relationship with horses. It's that. when you can get into a space with them like that, where they're just themselves fully, and yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you
Mm.
for yeah, for just expressing that with her, because it's a real gift, I think. It's quite rare.
Beautiful reflection. So, yeah. Yeah. And I don't know exactly, like, finding the words as much as I can rattle on with words at the same time. It's,
Mm,
I, I mean, I'm honored, and I feel and it means so much that that's what you would see, that's what you would feel. Because I feel like anytime we see and feel anything, I mean, just my interpretation anyway, in any other being, be it something that we don't resonate with or something that we do resonate with, it's like the only way that we're able to even feel it is if there's a facet within ourself that is also it, and that's it's I feel like it goes both ways. But so what I guess
yeah.
I say that to say that I feel like it's just really beautiful, like for that feeling, that facet of you where that truth lives, that place where the horse and the human can exist and do exist together in such openness, and freedom to be seen, and for you to witness that and to reflect that back
Yeah.
is really and then to amplify it through sharing it, is a precious gift. I'm very grateful because it just, it amplifies that aspect of me, and that is an aspect, that is so important, grounding, deeply. It feels like, a place that brings me closer to the center point, of my existence.
Mm,
There's many facets of self, but there's certainly some that feel like it's more experience of contrast, and then there's some that are more an experience of the center. And I just really appreciate, being able to feel that
mm,
experience of the center of me. And because that's my intention, is to be sharing that in everything that I do, whatever it is, whether, whatever, at home, in the pasture with the horses, or in
yeah.
front of people, or in a video, like, or in something I write, like, it's just so important that, because that's the piece that's always, been home, just my whole existence, thus far. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No, that really, I really feel that 100% through. Yeah, somehow it was able to be a performance without that ego sense of, yeah, it's almost like you were able to be doing it for you and for magic. And that was able to be shared by watching it, but it's not that you weren't doing it for others. And that seems like quite a big difference. It's almost like when you can do it truly for yourself, authentically for yourself, then that's what makes it so beautiful, because you're not having to try and be something,
Mm.
you know?
It's so, yeah,
So, yeah,
that's it. I mean, that's so
yeah.
it. And that was, I wrote also, of course, when I shared and the video, and just shared how, I sometimes I don't necessarily know when I feel a pull to do something, to create something. I don't always know all the reasons for it.
Mm,
I just know that it becomes kind of all consuming, and I just have. to do it. And one thing I did not know, I kind of knew, I did know energetically, I definitely knew, because I knew that this was going to be really hard, because there was a big part of me that kept wanting to not do it. And that wasn't the way it was when I did the first play, in this past January. That one, every part of me, it was like we were already there. We'd already done it. I had my own, there's always a level of anxiety, but this was different. That's what I'm saying. Like, this was almost one of those things where it was like, I couldn't quite get certain on if my body was trying to tell me, like my gut was trying to tell me, don't do it, because I knew it was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. And I almost didn't and I had plenty, my father, actually, he's okay now, but he took a fall. He got hurt, like right when I was at the point where I was going to need to either accept or decline, like the invitation to do it. And I wrote this whole email out declining it and saying, my father had this injury. He really needs me now. And when I got ready to send it, I was like, that's a lie. Like, for one thing, this is 2 months later. Like, he's not going to need you like he does now then. And if you're going to decline it, you at least have to be honest. Like, don't make up something, that just you think sounds good. So I just couldn't hit send, right? I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And so I didn't decline it.
Yeah.
I didn't. And I kept going forward. And the whole time, I just kept struggling with, because I knew what I was walking into. I just knew a lot about just what it was going to feel like to me to walk into it. And I don't mean that it was like a bad place that I was walking into, but I knew the level of intimidation I was going to feel. And I did. I felt it like amplified. And it's, I love that you shared that first story about, and part of it was this time and giving her this apple, because one thing that happened, and this is one of many, but this is the one I'll highlight because it's easier to talk about, because it's just, it's a story in reality. And so anyway, they have a rule at this particular, right now they have a rule. Maybe they won't in the future. I've already sent them a message about it, but who knows? But presently they have a rule that you're not allowed to give food rewards during your performance.
Okay.
And I do get where they're coming from, I think. I think that they are afraid that they might have people out there like with a carrot on a string, bribing their, thinking that it's going to take away. I don't know. They have their reasons. We all have different ways that we do things. And so it's not that the rule in and of itself is right or wrong, but I use food rewards. Like I use everything. I use, there's pressure and release involved. There's energetic, everything's energetic, but there's, animal communication involved. There's the food rewards with the click for yes. Like anything I've ever learned about how to communicate with a horse, like for me, all of that is fair game if it helps our relationship. And so it's not like it's any one of those things in particular, but they're kind of all on the table, as ways for us to support one another. And the truth is, it's just in that arena, we needed we needed more support in that space than we even need in the pasture at home. And then here I'm being told that I can't do, one of the things that helps us. And I thought I might be okay with that, but as I was in the experience of it, I started to feel so trapped. Like, and then everything started to feel like a wall. Like the pins you go through to go in the arena started to feel like a cage. All the participants, everything started to feel like I was trapped. And I had this awareness. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, just give her the food reward anyway. Like all they can do is tell me to, like, the worst they could do is tell me to leave. And I didn't think they would actually do that, but their rule was written pretty harshly. So I was a little, and I have a part of me that's, follow the rules, be nice, so people will like you. For me, which also means so people will support you, right? It's tied into my fundamental need for survival is to think that I need to be nice to others so they'll like me and support me. So, but I know that about myself now, right? So I doesn't mean I don't feel it, but I don't have to be it because I can see it.
Yeah.
So I'm just recognizing all that about myself. And I just decided, I'm just going to do it anyway. And so I did. And they did, they zeroed, there's, the part that you saw was the part I came to do, but we also had to do a compulsory pattern, which is just a little pattern they designed that's actually half of your score because it was a judged competition. And they zeroed out our score, the part where I gave the treat, and it was freeing. Like, but they didn't tell me I couldn't do the play. And so, I mean, the whole process was like, okay, this is good. Like, it actually felt freeing at the same time as terrifying. Like somehow the two were like together. And so we did the play, and I gave her food rewards in the play again. And when I edited the play to share it, I love just the creative aspect of, being able to do the deep, like, fading so you could see, that it brought it to more completion of the true vibration of what I was wanting to share, to be able to edit those scenes. And so one thing I did was I edited in the I am statements. I pulled intentional scenes from the play that represented that feeling for me. And for me, the I am loved was me giving her a treat. And it wasn't because, I need to be loved. The way I feel loved is to eat ice cream. Like, it didn't have anything to do with it. Was me just stepping into the ownership of the place of, I am the same for you being Magic. If I am at home in the privacy of our arena, pasture, safe space at home, I am the same being as I'm going to be for you in this space that we are now in where everyone's looking. That was incredibly freeing. And terrifying. Again, I can't even say freeing without saying terrifying at the same time, because it was so much in the same space. But and then even after I got, the whole thing has been just hard. I mean, truly very hard. But as I get on the other side of it, and now that I've released the play, and I'm just starting to feel actually on the other side of it. And I'm so grateful. I have so much more clarity. I mean, and this is where I won't go on and on because I know we don't have super long, but just around competition, around ego, around how I can continue to be in public with my, beloved equine partner, and do it with purpose and intention and finesse, and at the level, so to speak, that I want to do it at. And when I say level, I mean like the amount of awareness I'm pouring into it. And competition has helped me in the past really pour more of my own self into something. And then I started to think over the years that I couldn't and wouldn't do that unless I was in a competitive environment. And I have just started to realize that that's not actually true, but that it is important for me to be sharing this with the awareness of others. So to bring something into a space where it is where it's seen, and it's not about it being seen so that it's not directly about being seen so I feel worthy, even though, I mean, that's always an aspect of me that I now witness. I don't try to shove her away. I just know that she exists. But it's more so about, like, that's a way for me to know that I'm going to pour every bit of me into something if I bring it into a space that's going to have a lot of lights of awareness from other points of perspective. And so that's kind of led to, like, our creation for next year, which is a whole horse-human celebration. It's a celebration of the horse-human relationship. And we're going to do an event it's not going to be judged, but it is going to be, we're going to pay the participants just like you would with award money, but we're going to distribute it across the board. And I'm just going to give all of them what I want to be given, right, when I'm in a space like that. So I'm kind of now leaking into the future, so I'll stop and pause. So, yeah.
No, that sounds amazing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I just love that, in a way, it's a real manifestation, what you're doing, of that it's not about
Mm.
what
Yeah.
you do, it's about how you do it and who you are in doing it. Because there are a lot of times when I feel like, giving treats in that in a kind of training way doesn't feel authentic. It feels like kind of bribery and
Mm-hmm.
distraction and just a kind of way of luring. And
Yeah.
there is such a difference between that and what you're talking about, which was really
Yeah.
obvious to me in the play. Like that moment of complicity. It's like complicity. It's like
Mm-hmm.
just an expression of love, an unconditional love. So it's just another lesson that it's not,
Yeah.
you can't seek in the doing part of it. You can't seek to find the answers there. Yeah, you can, the only thing that really you can rely on is your authenticity and being that, and and that's what you did, because if you hadn't been authentic, you would have sent that email. So it's just like you just ended up in the right place because you were going in an authentic way and being you every step. And I think that's the only like
Mm.
real way to live. And I think it's sometimes it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, it's hard to, because fear comes into it and doubt. I think we just have to remind ourselves that it is the only thing that we have is what feels authentic and what feels limitless. And I think you just
Mm.
proved that you could bring that anywhere. You could bring
Yeah.
that space wherever you are. So that's really powerful as well.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's always the yeah. I totally agree. I mean that I that intention of bringing authenticity into the world, and it's a dance, and it's who am I to say like what's authentic and what's not. I mean, I feel like it's that back to that facets of self where it's like even the things that trigger me and make me just totally like want to just like pull my skin off my face, like it's a facet of self, like it's all so it's not to say that I can't, really get into ripping those things apart. And it's funny, like I'm so not enlightened. I mean, I'm just more aware of these facets. And I'm Mike and my husband and we'll be talking or I have very few people that I'm super, intimate connected with. But when I'm talking to those people about intimate things, and I can feel now when oh, what was it? There was somebody, it was something about this, and it was about the treat rule. And they have this other rule where there's this thing that has to do
Mm.
with pressure and release, basically, that it's okay to do, but it's not okay to do the treat. And I was like starting to chat with I don't know, I think it was Mike about this. And I was like, okay, I'm having way too much fun. Like, we can continue this conversation, but this is way too much fun. Like to rip apart how wrong they are. And it's like, I mean, it is and it's not. And but it I mean, being aware is important, but it just brings me back to that place of, okay, so where do I want to give my energy? I can spend so much energy in what I don't believe in, and
Mm.
what is that even for? And really I mean, this was something I really did learn. Like, what is it I really want after all? Do I really need to win? And I realized I actually don't. I mean, and it's weird for me to say that because there's a part of me that's like, excuse me, me, so, but I really like, I don't, because what I do need is I need the freedom to be myself in every single situation. that gives me chills. And that's what I feel like, that's what you were seeing and what resonated and what made it speak, because it was a place where I really did do that. I mean, I stepped in there and I decided I am going to be me, and with the contrast of what I was feeling, not what others were projecting. I mean, everyone there was a completely supportive. I mean, no one said anything to make me feel this way. I brought it there, but I did feel like I was living in my pinky toe and that everyone else was terrifying. Like, just their existence, just them being in a body was terrifying in that moment. But when I decided and then acted on that place of, it's okay. They can have this rule and it's okay. I can be me anyway. And that is, it's enough. Like, it's enough. And it's that enough that doesn't make me better than them because I'm doing, it doesn't make me less than, it just makes me me. And to feel that, and of course that's what, the horse, especially Magic, who is really used to me, like, and I know I feel like this I mean, you can certainly answer for yourself, but I don't teach Magic that. I don't tell her, okay, this is something to ignore and this is not. I mean, there is an awake, alive conversation that's happening all the time. And she's not desensitized to the spaces we go into. She doesn't go in there and it's like, oh, that doesn't exist. Like, she sees everything. She never stops seeing everything. And that is, so she saw everything. She saw the energetic pieces that I was seeing. But because she was not only seeing them and feeling them for herself, she was also feeling me seeing them and being freaked out by them. So it just made everything harder than it was, for example, back in January, where there were just as many aspects of the energy there for me to be intimidated by, but for whatever reason, and you can call it beginner's luck. I think it's that thing that divinity does that just steps in and says, okay, like, all your angels are here right now. We got you. And it helps you feel this thing that you really can do yourself, because you are all your angels too. I had that in Jan, like, I had that with me. And so I was able to feel a taste of what can be. And it was like this next experience, I still had it all, but I was more responsible for tapping into it. And with that new freedom came a little more failure, which came more contrast and more clarity on the other side of it. So in a way, it was a bigger win, internally, coming out at the bottom of this competition and being able to truly stay true, all the way through it. So.
You know what I keep thinking when you're talking is that if you hadn't had the rule and that issue, then you wouldn't have had the opportunity to be fully free, to find your freedom. So in a way it was
so true.
Perfect. It was the perfect scenario. And it's just amazing how life, it's like everything is orchestrated perfectly for us to
that's so true.
Grow and discover.
That's so true.
Be who we are.
It's so true. Every single aspect. Yeah.
And the other thing I was thinking about that was really interesting, while you were talking, is this. There's these little, I think they're cockatoos. I might have mentioned them before because I love them so much. I talk to anyone who will listen. But they're like little birds that are learning how to use tablets and learning to talk and learning to not talk. I don't know if they talk, actually.
Wow.
But they're learning to write and read and kind of, and they're so amazing. And there's this one particular one who is so bright and cheery and happy, and she's so clever. Like, she loves cheese. And this is just a little story just to kind of introduce this subject. But she apparently, her guardian, her mom, decided that she was getting too much cheese and that it was going to be bad for her health. So she stopped her having it. And Ellie went into a kind of sulk. and refused to do her writing. The only thing she would write was CH. And she did that for 6 weeks until finally she got a blood test or something for something else, and she was really healthy. So she decided to give her cheese again. And that very afternoon, after she had her first little bit of cheese, she wrote for like 2.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
She was just like, so,
That's
but
so
she's
great.
so got such a huge personality. But the reason I'm talking about her is because I know it's so funny, but her mom, when she's doing work with the birds, she's constantly giving them every time they make like do something, anything, like, because they talk on their tablets, like they'll say they want to listen to music, or they'll talk about how they feel, or or what they want to do, or if they want to read a particular book and everything.
Oh,
But she's always giving them little treats. And yeah, and I know I've talked to some people who think, well, that's cheating and it's not true, and and it
really? Like in the world that you are in, Camille, like of energetic, like aware, like so rich with like all these people. That's so powerful to me that there's that perspective that cheating like comes through, because
yeah,
I'm talking about it from the straight up pressure release, whips in your hand, like, I'm talking about it coming from a different community. Like it's just interesting how,
yeah.
yeah.